I woke up to the sound of flailing, a splash like a piano being dropped into seltzer, and the sight of our HOA president with her robe, clipboard, and waterproof whistle pinwheeling in my deep end at 6:12 a.m. While I dialed 911, she sputtered between gasps that this was an inspection and then vanished beneath my quote non-compliant water feature unquote, also known as the pool I legally own. My name is Grant Holloway and I own a modest stucco ranch in Maple Quay, a neighborhood with nice sidewalks, aggressive azaleas, and an HOA that believes property values are a fragile ecosystem threatened primarily by fun. I work as a technical writer who likes quiet mornings, good coffee, and doing laps at sunrise in my own backyard pool. Enter our antagonist, Lorraine Petty, HOA president for life with a haircut cut at right angles and a smile calibrated to pending litigation mode. She greeted me when I moved in 3 years ago with a pamphlet titled How to Be a Good Neighbor and a note taped to my pool skimmer basket that read standing water attracts feelings, whatever that was supposed to mean. Lorraine's crusade against my pool began with an avalanche of paperwork that would make a tax auditor weep. First came a violation notice claiming my pool perimeter was inadequate for neighborhood harmony, whatever that meant in legal terms. Then came a citation stating that flotation devices must be pastel colors only because my inflatable flamingo was apparently too vivid for community standards. The notices kept coming like a subscription service I never signed up for. Then she escalated to what she called wellness checks, which meant hopping my fence during the day while I was at work to measure chlorine levels with a baby food jar she carried in her HOA tote bag. I found out about these visits when my neighbor Felix showed me doorbell camera footage of her scaling my fence like a suburban ninja with arthritis. I installed a taller fence the next week. She called it a visibility barrier and issued another citation. I put a heavy-duty lock on the gate. She showed up the following Tuesday with bolt cutters she claimed were borrowed from the safety committee, though no such committee existed in our bylaws. The rumors she spread about my pool sprouted like algae in an untreated pond. According to the neighborhood Facebook group, Grant supposedly runs wild pool parties for social media influencers, though I don't even own a ring light and my idea of a party is reading technical manuals in silence. Then came the story that Grant keeps exotic fish in his pool, which turned out to be pool noodles floating in the shallow end. The most creative rumor was that Grant's pool water was addicting, though to whom exactly remained a mystery. Were the local ducks developing dependencies? At the June HOA meeting held in the community center that smelled perpetually of burnt coffee and disappointment, Lorraine proposed something she called Section 12 Communal Aquatic Oversight, which was essentially just a blown-up map of my yard with red circles drawn around my pool area. She stood at the podium with a laser pointer, explaining how my pool represented a threat to property values, community cohesion, and somehow even local bird migration patterns. When the proposal failed by a vote of 37-3 with only Lorraine and her two cronies supporting it, she turned the color of an overripe tomato and declared she had executive authority to conduct dawn patrols for the safety of the community. That brings us to that fateful morning when everything changed. Lorraine had apparently decided that 6 a.m. was the perfect time for an executive inspection. She climbed my back fence, which I had specifically heightened to 6 feet after her previous intrusions. But she miscalculated the distance by about a yardstick, and instead of landing gracefully on my pool deck, she cannonballed directly into the deep end while clutching her phone and a laminated sheet of HOA bylaws. The splash was magnificent in its chaos. I rushed outside in my pajamas to find her thrashing in 9 feet of water, her HOA president's sash tangled around her like a boa constrictor made of polyester. I grabbed the rescue hook I keep mounted on the fence, a safety requirement I had meticulously followed according to county regulations. As I hauled her toward the steps, her waterproof whistle somehow played what sounded like the national anthem of panic, a shrill continuous note that probably woke up everyone within a 3-block radius. She hacked up what seemed like half the pool's water while hissing through her coughs that I had made this dangerous on purpose. My security camera, which I had installed after what I now refer to as Bolt Cutter Day, captured everything in crystal clear high definition, complete with audio of her declaring this as official HOA business before she went airborne. The timestamp in the corner seemed to sigh with me as I watched her struggle up my pool steps. The paramedics arrived within minutes, their sirens adding to the morning symphony of chaos. Lorraine told them with a straight face that my reckless chlorination had caused her to sink, as if chlorine had somehow increased gravity in my pool specifically. The EMT looked at my prominently displayed life ring, the shepherd's hook I had just used to save her, the posted depth markers on all sides of the pool, and the bright yellow no unattended swimming sign that met every county requirement down to the font size. His expression suggested he had heard many ridiculous claims in his career, but this one was competing for the top spot. The police officer who arrived shortly after asked how she had entered my property. "Community oversight," she said with the confidence of someone who believed their own lies, then seemed to realize she was still wearing the neon green HOA access lanyard she had made on her cricket machine, complete with a photo of herself looking stern and a QR code that led nowhere. My neighbor Felix, who had been watching the drama unfold while pretending to water his petunias, wandered over with his phone already queued up to a highlight reel of Lorraine's previous trespassing adventures. 6 separate incidents, each featuring her in a different hat as if she were collecting them for each illegal entry. The officer's eyebrows performed an impressive duet as he watched the footage. He took statements from everyone, carefully bagged her bolt cutters which she had dropped by my gate, and asked if I wanted to press charges for trespassing and property damage. I said yes, not loudly or vindicatively, but with the same measured tone I use when placing a sensible online order for printer paper. Lorraine's face went through several shades of disbelief before settling on a color I can only describe as legal fee purple. The emergency HOA meeting the following week looked like a talent show for denial and finger-pointing. The community center was packed beyond capacity with neighbors who had never attended a meeting before but wouldn't miss this spectacle for anything. The projector displayed Lorraine's greatest hits in spectacular detail, including her fence-hopping techniques, her gate-picking attempts with various tools, her pool skimmer jousting where she tried to collect water samples while balanced on my deck furniture, and the piece de resistance, the slow-motion swan dive that ended in a belly flop heard in 3 zip codes. The county inspector whom I had invited as my special guest reviewed my thick compliance binder with the enthusiasm of someone who had been waiting for this moment. He then examined Lorraine's claimed authority, which consisted of a single page she had typed up and notarized herself. He explained in a tone so serene it could have meditated, that trespassing is indeed a criminal matter, that HOA bylaws are not magical teleportation spells that grant access to private property, and that chlorine absolutely does not cause gravity to increase. The room was so quiet you could hear Lorraine's legal defense crumbling. The board voted to suspend her immediately pending the outcome of criminal charges. The vote was unanimous except for Lorraine, who wasn't allowed to vote on her own suspension despite her protests about executive privilege. The audience clapped the way people clap at plane landings, with relief and the knowledge that a dangerous situation had been successfully navigated. Someone in the back actually hooped, though they tried to disguise it as a cough. A month later, Lorraine stood before Judge Harrison in municipal court, her usually rigid hair now curved in what I assume was an attempt at humility. She pled guilty to criminal trespassing and false reporting to emergency services. The judge, who had reviewed the security footage with what looked like barely suppressed amusement, was less entertained by the waste of emergency resources and the pattern of harassment. He sentenced her to 200 hours of community service, $5,000 in fines for the false emergency call, and issued a restraining order prohibiting her from entering my property or coming within 100 feet of any body of water I owned or was near, including decorative fountains at the mall. The HOA board officially removed her from her position that same afternoon in the fastest vote in Quay history. Her service assignment turned out to be the ultimate irony, working as a lifeguard assistant at the municipal pool, strictly on deck duty, handing out life vests and pamphlets about water safety and the importance of asking first. When the judge read the community service assignment, Lorraine's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, no sound coming out, her face frozen in the perfect expression of someone who had finally learned that HOA president was not spelled King.